Well, hi there. There's always something to talk about on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and you do a lot of the talking. Hopefully you do most of the talking, and that's a good thing because Debbie and I like to bring a topic to the table and let you take it and run with it, and your takes drive the show. So I'm going to give you the phone number now, and then we'll let you know what it is that we all want to have a conversation about today on EWTN Radio. The number's toll-free, 833-288 EWTN, 833-288-3986. And if at any time in your life you have lost someone dear to you, they have passed away, and you had great hope and praying for their soul and so forth, and we want to hear from you. You're going to want to take part in this conversation. Debbie, this is a topic that was actually suggested to us by one of our retreatants on the Stand Tall retreat.
I know. We are so excited that he suggested it, and so now we're putting it into motion here with this wonderful topic we have presented to you today. And we just are asking the question, do you have peace? You know, is there peace in your heart that your deceased loved one is with God? It sounds great, okay, doesn't it? Your loved one dies, and you're thinking, you're envisioning, well, they're in the arms of the Lord. And that makes you feel good, but does it really? I mean, are there parts of you that are going, you know, it sounds great. I hope they're with the Lord. I know they're with the Lord. I should be feeling rejoicing. I should be excited, but I'm still sad. I'm still, grieving, and so there is this kind of interesting tension that may arise from this question. So we want to hear from you. If you feel totally, blissfully, completely at peace because you know your loved one is wrapped in the arms of the Lord, then we want to hear from you. We want to tap into your experience on this that maybe can help all the rest of us as we are going through, maybe some long grieving processes, Jerry.
Yeah, in fact, if you're not at peace, we would love to have a chat with you as well, because we know there are a lot of people, Debbie, who have concerns over the souls of their loved ones. And let's face it, just to get theological just for a minute, it is God who judges. If we die in a state of grace, we are assured of going to heaven. There may be a little time spent in what the church calls purgatory, but still, purgatory is considered to be with God. Because if you have to go through a little bit of a cleaning up and purgation, you are saved, okay? So that is something important to keep in mind. But maybe there's someone that at least the fruits of their lives were not necessarily consistent with the gospel, and you have concerns about them, you prayed for them. Debbie, anybody at any moment, right up to the last breath, God can give that grace of repentance and conversion.
Mercy.
And so and mercy, yeah. So how do we hold out hope for someone like that?
Yeah, there's some great angles to this question. Do you have peace that a deceased loved one is with God? We need to hear from you. Remember, you drive the show, so what you have to say is very, very important. If you're feeling that little prompting from the Spirit, that may be the Holy Spirit nudging you to say, dial this number. Here's the number, 1-833-288-3986. That's 833-288-EWTN.
Yeah, it's always possible, too, that you have come to receive some kind of a consolation from God about the fate of a loved one, maybe even some kind of a supernatural sign. And we don't look for those things, and those don't come along just every day. And we don't certainly want the conversation here to get into sort of the non-traditional, well, my loved one appeared to me, or these kinds of things.
Right, exactly.
But Debbie, let's face it, there are those times we can pray, God, give me some kind of a visible sign or whatever, and somebody will say something to us, or we'll experience something, we'll come across something of that loved one. These kinds of things that can sometimes snap us out of just this funk that we get into about really being maybe a little bit overly concerned. And this gets down to trust too. This is a big trust issue.
I was just going to say that, Jerry. It really is. It's all about trusting in God. And let's really get into that, because I think that's going to be a very good catechesis for all of us. Here's the number again, 1-833-288-EWTN. Phone lines are lighting up. That means you are taking on this show because it's yours. Take two with Jerry and Debbie and you. Remember that. Don't forget that. Okay, so we're asking the question today, do you have peace that a deceased loved one is with God? That's what we're asking today. That's what we're going to be discussing on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. So after this brief pause, we're going to come back and go right to the phones.
is Anna Mitchell from the Sunrise Morning Show, praying you have a blessed and holy Lenten season.
Aloha, this is Bear Wozniak. Have a blessed Lent from all of us at EWTN Radio.
Al Kresta.
If you talk to professional philosophers, they're not relativists. Philosophically, relativism can't be justified. People sacrifice objective truth, objective morality on the altar of personal liberty. In other words, in pursuit of what I want to do, I will say, well, that is not binding on me. That's just your opinion.
Kresta in the afternoons, weekdays at 4 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
EWTN Radio Classics is our 24/7 teaching and devotionals channel straight from the EWTN archives. Go Classic with EWTN Radio Classics online at EWTNradio.net and on the EWTN app.
60 on 10 with Monsignor Charles Pope.
The eighth commandment, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. At one level, the reputation a person has is one of their most precious gifts, and to intentionally harm the good reputation of someone is a very grave matter. We can do this often through detraction by disclosing others' faults without a valid reason, or calumny, just outright lying about other people. Likewise, through rash judgment. This commandment also protects the truth, which is another very, very great good. To lie is to speak something that we know is false with the intention of deceiving others. We ought to be dedicated to the truth. It is the truth that sets people free, while errors and lies entrap people in many difficult and often sinful situations. The Lord asks us to give witness to the truth of the gospel. This commandment, therefore, asks us to stay dedicated to the truth and to other people's reputation. The eighth commandment, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Great to have you with us. Great to have Rich and Matt and Jeff and all the other great folks at EWTN helping to keep the show on the air and moving straight ahead here. And thank you, affiliates, for airing Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and you for your listenership and your calls. We've got jammed phone lines right now. A lot of you have wonderful, I'm sure very insightful things to share on this topic today about having peace, having comfort, having confidence that a loved one or all of your loved ones who have died are with God. We are not the judge of that, but we can have a certain assurance, I believe, and certainly our prayers, Debbie. I made the comment on a recent show that God, if we pray for mercy for someone, it is impossible for God not to give that mercy, because he would be denying himself. It would be like the Father looking at Jesus in his passion on the cross and saying, nope, not going to answer that one. So yeah. I think we can have that. We can just have a much more confidence than sometimes we realize.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The other thing too, I just wanted to remind everyone, and including for myself, that it's important that when we say our daily prayers, we remember the souls in purgatory. It's very, very important. They cannot help themselves anymore, but we can help them. And so that's how I always try to remember the souls in purgatory. And I just think it's very, very important we do that. And like Jerry, I've heard it said many times that like if your loved one is in heaven already, or those prayers aren't wasted. And so it's really always good to remember all the souls in purgatory. Okay, so we're going to go to the phones. Mary is first up in San Antonio, Texas on EWTN.com. Hi, Mary. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Mary.
This is very difficult for me. I had a brother-in-law that he was on his deathbed, and I was told to help out. We all took turns taking care of him. And one evening, my husband asked me, can you watch, because we don't have anybody else? And I said, okay. Well, I know he was dying. I know he was weak, but he was very strong. And during my stay, he tried to take advantage of me. Well, I'm thinking, okay, this is not happening. He's not in his right mind. He's doing things that, he's not aware of. Maybe this is, I don't know. I didn't understand it. And it's very hard for me to say that he was very strong, even though he was dying. I mean, he would not let me go. Plus the fact that he told me not to tell anybody. So I knew passed, and he passed in his 60s, and now I carry this with me, and I want to tell my husband about his brother, but I can't, and I took it to confession, and Father told me, you need to tell your husband so he knows how you feel. You need to, let him know, and I just can't, because he talks nice about his brother. We go to the graveside. We pass buildings on the street. Oh, we went to this dance. It was so nice. It reminds me of my brother, and I just can't hurt him like that. I don't want to bust that bubble, that thought, that good thought, but yet I'm hurt. I'm angry.
Sure. Mary, can I ask you a couple things? First of all, I know this must have been very hard to share this. So thank you for having the courage, because obviously you want to be released of this anger, and you want to be released of this episode that happened to you, and it's very obvious. So I just the first thing I was just going to suggest, Mary, is, first of all, Jerry and I are not counselors. We're just a brother and sister in Christ, okay? But this is just what I'm as you're talking, I'm thinking about what I would do. The first thing is I would have gone to Father and spoken to a priest and get some good spiritual direction. It sounds like, if you trust this priest, which it sounds like you do, that he gave you that advice to talk to your spouse. But I would also talk to a therapist or a counselor. And let me tell you why I say that. Because you need to process out some of these emotions, and you're not doing that. You're stuffing them because you're not sharing it with your husband. And maybe the counselor will present another way for you to look at this, to reframe things, as Jerry always says, and be able for you to work through the anger. And then you'll feel in a better place to maybe talk to your husband, or maybe your husband can go with you, and you and your husband and the counselor can all talk about it. Or maybe it's best, who knows, maybe the recommendation would be, maybe it's best not to bring it up with your husband because you have moved past it. But it sounds like you're stuck in that position where you're holding on to the anger, holding on to the situation, and every time your husband probably brings up nice things about your brother-in-law, it's just pulling off that Band-Aid again, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
yeah.
It does. I sit there and go, if you only knew, if you only knew.
Well, Mary, let me ask you this. Have there been indications from you, inadvertent, of course, that may have tipped him off that you're uncomfortable about something? In other words, when he makes these comments about how great his brother was and all these memories and so forth, that can cause you great unease, and perhaps he would pick up on you being uncomfortable about something. So my only concern is that at some point, that he may kind of look at you and say, honey, are you okay? And it's just really going to come to a head where you have to say, well, no, I'm not, and here's why. So I don't know if that might happen or not. But you were going to say something else, Mary. Go ahead.
Real quiet. I don't say anything. Even when we go to the burial site, he's buried with other family members, and I just kind of sit back and let him go forward. I can't even step on the grave. I just stay back. Mm-hmm. But the day it happened, he knew something was wrong. And I don't know if he is putting it back in his mind that maybe something happened, but he knew I was upset. He knew I was very upset. But I said, I didn't want to tell him. I just said, no, it's okay. No, I'm fine.
Mary, do you want to tell him?
I want to, but I want to so bad. But I don't want to hurt the thoughts and nice things about his brother.
Right.
Is it worth it for me to hurt that? Am I supposed to just carry this? Am I supposed to is this going to be my sacrifice? I mean, if it is, okay. That's the way it'll be. But
Mary, I'm always of the belief, like the Bible says, the truth will set you free. To speak the truth at all times, because people need to know the truth. That's been one of the problems in this world. I think we hide the truth. But Dr. Ray Guarendi is fabulous to talk to. So is Dr. Greg and Lisa Popchak. Just amazing. That maybe can help you. I'm wondering, Jerry, is there any way we can maybe she could call in or to talk to Dr. Ray or something, just so she gets more advice?
Well, yeah, The Doctor Is In, Mary, is a show that airs right after Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. And Dr. Ray Garendi, maybe you've heard his show. He is a clinical psychologist. He doesn't do any actual therapy on the air, but he can certainly give advice and counsel pertaining to specifics of your situation. So you might want to consider calling him on that show. And then Greg and Lisa Popchak are on a little bit earlier in the day, I believe. Mm-hmm. But if you check out the show calendar at EWTN.com, or maybe Rich can tell us what time that show airs.
But I just wouldn't keep all those emotions inside, Mary. It sounds like it's eating you up, and that's not good. That's not healthy for you, spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally. So I would still keep pursuing that direction, Mary, spiritual direction, and also some help with some counselors to just help you process it, because otherwise it's not. I don't think that's healthy. What do you think, Jerry?
Well, I don't either, Mary. I think the whole idea of taking care of yourself, I mean, it could be very heroic. It could be could bring you much sanctity. And Mary, there's always the angle of, getting back to the topic of today, having confidence and trust that a family member, a friend, a loved one is with God. This was a very, very egregious thing that your brother-in-law did right near the end of his life. And we know from church teaching that if he did not turn that to God and repent and receive forgiveness for that, then it could, we don't judge, but it could be very much against him when he met the Lord, if you know what I mean. So this cross that you're bearing right now, I would ask you, and you're probably doing this already, focus intensely on your brother-in-law. And maybe as you offer this for him, God, please, I endure whatever size of cross, Father, you want me to bear. Maybe not telling my husband, eventually telling my husband, whatever it happens to be. But moment by moment, Mary, you could be winning the salvation of your brother-in-law. Again, that's known to God alone. But this is where true heroic love and sacrifice come into play. I don't know if is that something you've thought about, Mary, already?
That's what I'm thinking, that maybe this will help him. You know, it's just a sad, sad thought of, the whole thing.
It's a horrible thing you went through. Yeah.
Thank you so much. You've helped me. Thank you.
All right, well, Mary,
with you, Mary.
At this point, it seems that your brother-in-law and you are the only two who know that this happened, and now, of course, God knew. So your brother-in-law is gone, Mary. So you're really, right now, given the current circumstances, you are the one God is looking to and is calling, is raising up to maybe win the salvation of this man. So take that on with great love and ardor and fervor and devotion, Mary. And please do know of our prayers. We appreciate you calling so much.
And Jerry, real quickly, I just want to say something else too. Eventually, if Mary feels comfortable enough, or it's the proper time for her to tell her husband, then maybe the two of them together can be praying also for the brother-in-law. You know what I'm saying? So it all can work out in the end if it starts to process correctly. But when this is a whole nother reason, Jerry, we do the Stand Tall retreats. When we bottle up a lot of emotions and feelings, it doesn't serve us very well. And I just would stress that a lot. There's a lot of help out there for. I mean, Jerry, we both talk about spiritual direction. I have several that I go to help me along, and I know you do as well, Jerry, and I think it's really helpful to always process feelings. So thank you again, Mary. God bless you. You're a courageous woman, and we're with you in prayer. Please know that.
All right, Tim is next in Findlay, Ohio. Hi, Tim. I'm going to wave at you, watching us on Facebook Live, one of our regular listeners and callers. Tim, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. How are you, brother?
Hey, not too bad.
Hi, Tim.
How are you kids doing?
Doing
Us
better
kids
now.
are doing great.
Yes, I meant kids.
So what's your take
up?
on this? Yeah.
Well, I was going to share what I shared with you in the email. There were the three things that kept, my mom had it was weird. It was like it all started on the day, the same day that my grandmother died in 74, I should say, on the 19th. But she spent 2 days shy of 2.5 months between 4 facilities. And the three things that kept me strong, through the whole thing, was my faith, my faith, the support of friends and family. And then third was the realization that there was going to be the day when, when Mom was going to be with us. Was the acceptance of that fact.
Yeah. Well, those are three, I would call them pillars, Tim, quite frankly. And I know you're very, very grateful for your faith. Anyone who has the gift of faith really should be. It is so vital to have the family, the friends, the outside people who kind of can support you and console you when you're going through what you're going through. And then again, going back to the eyes of faith, Debbie, having that belief, that assurance that, Jesus says, I go to prepare a place for you. And, he is going to be, the bodies are going to be resurrected, and we're going to see our loved ones again in such a much more glorious way than we ever could in this life. So yeah. I think Tim has got three great things that he has leaned on.
Yeah, I agree. And Tim, it's so important that we do cling to our faith when we have these situations that come up that it just really... They rock our world completely and change the direction of things and so quickly. And it's important for us to have that strong faith that we can lean on. And Tim, I'm glad you called in, because I think it's important that we constantly mention it and keep it on the forefronts of all our minds, that's what we need to do, is to have that strong, rooted faith in God. Yeah, I appreciate the call very much. In fact, I know somebody.
Well, it was a challenge when my grandmother passed away in '74, because I was like in 8th grade, and it was the only concert my mom never went to.
Oh.
I came home and it was like chaos.
Yeah.
And and it was like
So
I didn't know what was going on, but here, I remember very well, very vividly. But, it was 6 days before Christmas, and it took me a while to get back into the Christmas spirit.
Yeah.
Because, losing Grandma, because we took care of her.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
She was bedridden, but we took care of her. She lived with us.
Well, you have a beautiful family.
Yeah, and no doubt you had a lot of great holiday memories, Christmas memories with your grandmother as well. So, Tim, it's always a joy and an honor for us to hear from you. Thank you so much for calling
Thanks,
Take Two with
Tim.
Jerry and Debbie. And we'll keep you in our prayers and your grandmother as well. Phone number is 833-288-EWTN. We've got Alex and Kathleen and Arthur. We're going to get to your calls here in just a moment. In fact, why don't we go to Alex next? Yeah. Debbie's like, yeah, well, what do you mean? We're going to get to them later. We're going to get to you now. Alex in Cleveland, listening on The Rock to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Hi, Alex. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Like I was telling the screener, my son passed away last year in September. He was only 28 years old. He didn't do drugs. He didn't do anything. And he just died one day. And he did have a condition with his heart, and he was taking care of it. But it's just so hard to believe that he's gone. And it's so hard to believe that God needed him for some reason. And I don't know. It just tests my wife and myself's faith all the time. It's just so hard. Like I was telling the screener also, I'm at the cemetery right now. I come here every day, and I pray for him, and that everything's okay, that maybe he stopped in purgatory for a while. But
maybe not. Yeah. Would you impart your son's first name? Are you comfortable doing that, Alex, so we can put him in our book? Nathan. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can assure you, Alex, that thousands of people around the world have just begun to pray with you and your wife for Nathan. And you said something that I believe manifests a strong faith. You said you and your wife have your faith shaken. That's so understandable, Alex. But it's there. It's deeply rooted within you, because you made the comment that you have trouble believing that God needed him for something in heaven, and no longer needed him here on earth. And to me, Debbie, that manifests a beautiful understanding on the part of Alex that, in God's time and according to God's will, these things unfortunately, tragically happen. But I hear a strong faith in a comment like that.
Oh, I do as well. And Alex, I'm sure you know this. You're still in the grieving stages. It could take years. I worked on several projects. They were called death and dying projects, and I will tell you that I learned so much about the grieving process. And one of the things that is, first of all, it's so unnatural. Oh, Alex, I'm so sorry. I've got to share something very important. Please, I know you're at your son's gravesite, but if you can just hold on a little bit longer when we come back, I just wanted to impart this to you. Maybe it could be some help for you and your wife. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and we'll be right back.
This is a Lenten Journey with Timothy Cardinal Dolan.
O my God, I am heartily sorry for having offended thee, and I detest all my sins because of thy just punishments, but most of all because they offend thee, my God. You are all good, and you deserve all my love. I firmly resolve, with the help of thy grace, to sin no more, and to avoid the near occasions of sin. You recognize that, don't you, the act of contrition? We got a beautiful one in the reading at Mass for this Monday of the second week of Lent. This one comes from Daniel, the great leader of the Jewish people, when he simply says to God, we're sorry. Lent is still teaching us about prayer. Prayer praises God. Prayer thanks God. Prayer asks God for the blessings and graces that we need. And prayer also apologizes to God when we tell him we're sorry. Those are acts of contrition.
A Lenten Journey with Timothy Cardinal Dolan is available on DVD through the EWTN Religious Catalog. This DVD includes all 47 segments for each day of Lent, from Ash Wednesday to Easter Sunday. To get your copy, log on to our website, EWTNReligiousCatalog.com, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or call 1-800-854-6316.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
I said to the sisters one day, what do you think you're going to look like in heaven? Oh, some of them had absolutely magnificent ideas. I didn't think of one of them. And so I got desperate because then my turn came. I didn't know what to say. And so in desperation, I said, what do you think I'll wear in heaven? And they all said with one voice, armor.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
We're talking today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie about if your loved one is with the Lord and does that bring you peace? And we're talking all about all different angles on that. So if you want to get in on this discussion, it's 1-833-288-EWTN. I just want to quickly say real fast, because I love the programs on EWTN radio and television. There's one coming up tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, The Journey Home with Marcus Grodi. It's on EWTN television and radio. And Mark Neugebauer is going to be on with Marcus Grodi, and he's a convert from the Messianic Jewish faith. It's this fascinating journey he went on, Mark Neugebauer. I have to say that 5 times quick. It's a hard name to say. But please check this out, The Journey Home at 8 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. Alex, thank you for waiting so patiently. You're going to visit your son I'm sure his gravesite is very beautiful. I'm sure your wife and yourself have made it beautiful with flowers and such. I just wanted to say something, though, because doing this death and dying project, I learned something very valuable, and that is that when parents have to bury their children, no matter what age they are, it's extremely unnatural. It doesn't feel right. You'd never truly reconcile about it and feel okay and maybe even feel at peace with it. So it's so very, very important, Alex, and I'm sure you're doing this, that you enlist support around you and your wife to help the two of you get through this. Because what happens sometimes is just, it can break down a relationship. Sometimes it builds a relationship up so strong. And that's what we want for everyone that has to go through this very unnatural, extremely painful experience that you had burying your son, Nathan. I just wanted to say, too, we're praying for you and your wife and your entire family, and of course for the soul of Nathan. But let me just share something else. One other quick thing. It's so important, too, that you allow yourself this time to get through it. And just know, I heard it said several times by a priest. He said it was said by a saint, but I can't seem to find the saint that said it, that Nathan is just a veil away. You know how sheer a veil is? Think of your wife's wedding veil. It's so sheer you could see every part of her face, her eyes, her nose, and everything. Just the veil was separating you and your wife. That's what it's like with Nathan. That's how close he is. I hope that brings you a little bit of comfort, Alex. I would love to hear your response.
Well, I believe that too, because things happen that are unnatural and you can't explain it at our house. And what the priest told us too, that the prayers are for us and not for Nathan, because Nathan's already next to God. And I believe what he said also. I can't talk anymore. I'm sorry.
That's okay, Alex. God bless you for just letting your heart show like this, and thank you for calling. And I would echo what that priest said. I would say the prayers are certainly for Nathan, as Debbie made the point earlier in the show. If someone is in the beatific vision with God, then God can apply those prayers to someone else. So don't stop praying for Nathan, but you are praying for yourselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's spiritual self-care, Alex.
That's right.
You're a beautiful soul, Alex. And the love that you and your wife and your family have for Nathan, and which continues on into eternity, Alex, you have that to look forward to. You have that reunion with him and all of you together in glory with God to look forward to. So we're with you. We're with you in prayer, and we thank you again for calling and sharing on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, Kathleen in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. On the EWTN app. You're up next. Kathleen, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, Jerry. Hi, Debbie. How are you guys?
Great,
Doing
Kathleen.
well.
How are you?
Good. Well, this is a little bit more lighthearted, but I tell you, I'm praying for Alex. I can't imagine. I have 2 daughters. I can't imagine what it would be like for him. But anyway, my mom and dad, they're both gone. My mom's been gone 11 years. And when she passed away, I didn't know how I could make it through because, a mom's love, they love you more than anything. And that one person that knows things about you and loves you more than anything. So it was really hard. I spent Mom and Dad's deathbeds. I was with them, and I have 7 brothers and sisters, and we were with them. We were blessed enough to share that time with them, and what a blessing, right? So it's almost like you're with God and the angels while they're with them going through that journey almost, So my dad, he was in the hospital, and you could see him like reaching up, and we had the priest come and give them their last rites, and we got to pray with them and be with them, and you always have that doubt. You don't know what's going to happen, after they're gone,
right?
But just little things that have happened since they've been gone help me, know that they are with the Lord and they're with the angels. And one day I was at the cemetery, and I just stopped by there, and it was, it's been like 7 years since my dad passed away, and I drove up, and I just was walking around there, and my mom had a collection of red birds. So, and I think a lot of moms have collections of red birds, right?
My mom did too. Go ahead.
Yeah, and she must have had 150.
Oh,
but,
wow.
I just walked around there. It was really peaceful, pretty day, and I got back in my car, and I was sitting there, and here this red bird comes and sits on the side mirror of my car.
Oh, my goodness.
And looks in the car. And I'm like looking at it going, oh, my gosh, I can't believe this is happening, of all the birds of all the days, So I'm struggling to get my phone out to take a picture, and it flies away. And I'm like, nobody is going to believe that this happened, you know.
Right.
So I'm sitting there, and I was saying that prayer of thanksgiving, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to tell, you know, all my brothers and sisters about this. Well, the bird flies back, and it sits there, and I just start taking pictures. And it's just like hopping around and looks in my window and looks at me. And I was just, you know, I was sitting there with my mouth open. I couldn't believe what happened.
Right. Little signs from heaven. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a little bird. And and I don't believe the spirits are in the birds at all, but I believe that, you know, God can use things to help you know and be at peace. And that really helped me. And I'm like, you know what? I know beyond belief that God is merciful, and He was giving me that sign that I needed at that time to know that Mom and Dad are safe and happy, and they're, you know, happier than ever that we can even imagine. But and every time I go to the Eucharist, a priest told me one time when I was really sad, he's like, when you go to the Eucharist, heaven is with you. So every time I go and receive the Eucharist, I remember that. And I know Mom and Dad and my grandparents and my aunts and uncles are with me, and all the angels.
Kathleen, you're the closest to them at that point during the Eucharist. So that's why it's very beautiful. I think of that all the time with my dad. So I think that is wonderful. I think you said it just beautifully. And these little glimpses, these personal signs that we get from God, I mean, God wants us to be at peace with it. And so it's very important that we go in that journey. We keep progressing forward, that we don't get stuck. And it sounds like you're at that point where you're celebrating your mom and dad's life. And I think that is awesome. Can we have their first names, though? Because as you were speaking, I looked at your name and I didn't see names for your mom and dad. We would love to add them to our book.
Yeah, it's Betty and Carl.
Betty and Carl. Okay, they're forever in the book. There you go.
They were wonderful. They were wonderful people, and my brothers and sisters. We had a get together at my dad. My dad had pneumonia, and he got really sick, and we knew that he was going to pass away, and we were all so sad. But he was 83, so we all had a get together in his room at the hospital, and we celebrated his life. And he couldn't talk to us. He was just laying there, but he loved wine, and we just
Wait a minute. Hold on, Kathleen. Are you talking about my dad? Because my dad was 83 and loved wine as well. So now I'm always going to remember Carl. Okay, you got it now. There you go.
Yeah, and it sounds very odd, but we all were so sad, but we celebrated him there, and we know he knew we were there, you know. So, and I'm praying for all those people that go through something like that or lose a loved one and don't have that opportunity. So
well,
you guys
Kathleen,
have a wonderful day.
You too, Kathleen. And as you depart, I want to encourage everyone. If you've lost a loved one and you just would like a little bit of I don't know, some kind of a small consolation or a sign or something from God, ask Him for it. That's not inappropriate. God doesn't have to do it, and in many, many, many situations, He won't do it. But there's nothing wrong with that, saying, God, could you just do something? Let me see something, hear something, somebody say something that would just be unmistakable. And I just remember, Debbie, when, I've shared this on the air before, when we were making the funeral plans for my sister a little over a year ago, my brother-in-law drove around to the cemetery and the mortuary and had to, do all these very, very, unpleasant visits and plans and preparations and all of that. And we were driving back to their house, and it was kind of a cloudy day, but sunny and a little bit of rain. And you guessed it, as we were about 2 miles from their home, you could see in the direction of their home this full, magnificent rainbow arched right over their home. I mean, exactly where their home would have been. And I hadn't necessarily prayed for a sign. I felt very confident. My sister had a beautiful holy death. But I just really believe that was God, that was her. You know what I mean? It was one of those things that
showing presence.
Yeah, so now I can always look back and remember that. And just have even more peace than I already did have at the time.
Well, look at St. Teresa, the little flower. People see flowers or get flowers all the time.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the whole idea, that when we go back to thinking that they're just a veil away, very close to us. So thank you again, Kathleen. That was a beautiful call. Arthur, you've been waiting so patiently, I believe. Let me see. Nope. I think Arthur got our Patience Award. It's virtual, Arthur, but it's yours. In Middlebury, Indiana, Redeemer Radio. Welcome to Take Two. Hi, Arthur.
Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
Arthur.
I don't really have a question. Well, it kind of is, but I'm kind of on the other spectrum. I've lost loved ones. I lost my father 4 years ago. I've lost several uncles and cousins, and I'm retired military, and I've lost soldiers, and I don't get sad per se. I get more along the lines of I get more sad for the people that I see remorsing so hard for them. Does that make me kind of a callous person?
I didn't catch that. You were breaking up a little bit on that last sentence or two, Arthur. Can you rewind just about 5 seconds there? What was that last part that you said?
Yeah, does that make me more of a callous person? That I mean, I feel remorseful, and I'm really sad that they're gone, but I don't feel a bad thing.
Right.
That's where my question lies.
I don't know, Debbie. I'll
Hello?
share something, and then maybe you've got something.
I
don't
have
think,
something, but you go first.
Well, I don't think it makes you callous, Arthur, at all. I mean, you obviously have a sense of heaven and hell and death, and we're going to go to one place or the other. I have no doubt. I can't imagine you would not be at least somewhat sorrowful and pray for these people. But I think if I could define or describe the philosophical approach you take to this, it's one of trust. It's like, Lord, they lived their life. They had to make their choice. I hope they chose for you. I pray that they do. But you have a peace either way, trusting in God to do what's in their best interest. Debbie,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's even in the ballpark. But
yeah, absolutely. I think that's wonderful about trust. But Arthur, I just wanted to ask you a question. I'm not a psychologist, but did you lose somebody very close to you that when you were very young?
I wouldn't say very young. I'm 55 right now, and I lost my grandpa, who was probably at that time the closest person that I knew that died. And I was sad, but I mean, I feel the same way about it now as I did back then. I mean, he made his choices. He was a devout Catholic man, and I'm pretty confident that he went to heaven. Lord knows I won't even say that he did, because I would, it's not for me to judge. It's God's choice or judgment. But I mean,
right. But how old were you? How old were you, Arthur, when he died?
24.
Okay, that's still relatively young. 24. Yeah.
Right.
But were you very close to your grandfather?
Yes. As a child, I mean, I spent a lot of time with him. Helped him on the farm, and he was older. He was 84 or 85 when he died, and so I mean, as far as all my grandparents, he was the closest to me.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay. So let me just do like a little wild guess here, just because you said a couple things that kind of stuck out for me. You said you're retired military, so clearly I come from a military family, so clearly you've had to adopt certain skills to be able to obviously see death, cope with death, have something, especially if you were in the military. So you've got that, that maybe you can draw upon. Maybe the way you process things, you're just processing it very logically, which we all know that once we are born into this world, we begin to die. So maybe you're a very logical person. And with you being 24 years old when your grandfather passed, that might just be the way you chose to go through the grieving process. So you reconciled it within your brain, within your heart, the way you do. So you feel sorry for the people here still on earth, but not necessarily, you don't have that strong, deep sorrow for those that have passed on. That's how you're coping. I don't see that as callous at all. I see that as a coping mechanism. And that's just me. I'm just, take it or leave it. It's just a guess, but am I even close to the ballpark, Arthur?
Well, I wasn't even in the military when my grandpa died yet. I didn't go until I was 27. And, but I do pray. I mean, I pray for the souls in purgatory every day on my rosary. I look at it. I mean, this is
That's
the way I
you
look at it. Is that is they're in a better place. Hopefully, you know what I mean. And if God didn't choose to bring them to heaven, He's got a good reason for it. You know what I mean? It isn't something that He just made a rash. You know, that's not God. That's totally not God.
Right.
And I guess, I mean, I'm comfortable with that. But I thought maybe it made me kind of maybe calloused or something towards it.
I don't think so. I'm
I
not
don't
detecting that
No,
at all.
and Alex, it really, you know, as we understand as Christians, it is not God who makes that decision. God ratifies our decision, basically, is what it is. We make the decision for Him or against Him, for heaven or for hell, by the way we live our lives and by the way we love or don't love. And so God is just simply putting, the rubber stamp on our decision. So that's really all I would say about that. But praying for the souls in purgatory is so very important. So God bless you for that, Arthur. Thank you for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Please.
Thank you for serving in the military.
Yeah, thanks for your service. And include on one of those beads a little prayer for us in the show and our listeners, if you would, Arthur.
Please.
We'd appreciate that. And we'll certainly keep you in our prayers. Maura, we're going to go to Maura next in Greenwich, Connecticut, listening on Amazon Echo. Hi, Maura. You're up next on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Hi. Yes, I just actually want your input on this. 10 years ago, a very good friend of mine, a German woman, I lived in Germany, and she became a very, very good friend, and she has a big heart, and she really was, treated me, she's older than I was, but, like a younger sister, but she really was lovely and helped me. But in her life, she, committed adultery. And then kind of worse than that, at the end of her life, she got cancer, and she decided, she and her new husband, she decided to kill herself. So she went down to one of those clinics, this place called Dignitas in Switzerland, and killed herself. And her son, her only son is a doctor, and he was asking her not to, and I called the night before and asked her not to. But I really struggle with where she is, and, I have felt that she is in purgatory. Before she died, I gave her a Medal of Mary. She had been born Catholic, was not, practicing. But I'd given her a Medal of Mary, and when I had last visited her before she died, she had just sort of opened her hand and showed me she had the medal, and I'm hoping that saved her, but I would like your input on that.
Well, I guess, Maura, I would ask, she had, I'm not sure, you didn't mention the method by which she, what was administered to her for her death, but it sounds like it took some amount of time because you saw her after she had done that, but before she died, and then you saw the medal. Is that the correct chronology of that?
No. The thing was she was alive. I never had any supernatural things. I had gone to visit her before because she died. This clinic, and I guess they inject people, but it's a suicide clinic in Switzerland.
Right. But what I'm asking, Maura, is when you saw her open her hand with the medal, was that like immediately before she died, when the drugs had been administered already, or was that sometime?
No, I did not. I was not in the clinic with her.
Okay.
I was in the ICU when she died.
All right.
It was maybe a month beforehand. I had gone over to try to convince her not to do this.
Right.
And I had given her a medal before, like maybe a year before. Now it was a month before she took her life, and she opened her hand just to show me that she had the Medal of Mary in it, which I took as a sign that she was telling me, she was praying to Mary.
Yes. I think that's very safe to say, Maura. And for me, if it were my friend, and even though I never knew her, this would give me some level of confidence. Okay, what she did, the adultery. Let's hope that she got right with God about that. Obviously, Debbie, the taking of one's own life is objectively a very grave evil and sin against God. The church certainly understands. In modern psychology, we're not psychologists, but psychology would say that somebody's mental disposition could greatly mitigate the guilt in that situation. So we don't know any of that, but it's hopeful, Debbie, at least, that she had that medal. She was conscious of it, and it would seem to me almost a certainty that she had it in her hand when she took her life. So does one outweigh the other one? I don't know. But Mary is very powerful in her prayers at any moment. Even what do we pray in the Rosary? Now and at the hour of our death. Pray for us. So.
Maura, I just want to say something. Thank you for giving your friend the medal, and I think you were very courageous in trying to talk her out of it. Unfortunately, everybody has their own will, and we can't infringe on people's free will, but we can do what we can, and you did it so beautifully. So thank you for doing that, imparting that medal. The other thing I would just say is I think we should play the Divine Mercy Chaplet for your friend. There's many graces in that, and it's an amazing prayer. And I would encourage all of us to do that. I wouldn't even ask you for your friend's first name. I think God will know so you don't have to impart your friend's first name if you feel uncomfortable. But I'm going to be praying the Divine Mercy Chaplet for your friend, and I hope others will join as well.
Actually, I'd like to give her name so that people can pray for her.
Yeah.
Her name was Renata.
Renata. Got it. Okay, she's in the book.
All right. Thank you, Maura, for being such a caring friend, and your prayers are certainly going to be very, very powerful as well. Sherry in West Virginia. Sherry, we have about 90 seconds and not any more than that, but we wanted to get you on here before we wrap things up to take two with Jerry and Debbie. Hi, Sherry, please. Hate to have you make it brief, but we wanted to help you in some small way if we could. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm calling because I had a very dear uncle, Chuck, and he was not a man of deep faith. He wasn't religious at all, although he knew every bit of Bible history. And in the last 15 years of his life, we discussed a lot about God and God's mercy. But he did die without that deep faith that most of us are blessed to have. We gave him a baptism of desire, even though he was unconscious, because I believe deeply he wanted to be with God and he wanted to be with his wife and his son. I so want to believe that he is with God in heaven, but things just creep in on me and make me wonder.
Well, Sherry, you have shared a lot of things. Yeah. You've shared a lot of factors there that, like Maura's call with her friend, that would give me grounds for great confidence. Okay, again, God alone is the one who makes that call, that determines, the eternal fate that we have chosen for ourselves. But you mentioned, you said he didn't manifest a lot of deep faith. But it sounds like, he knew the Bible well, and you and he had talks about God and things divine and so forth. Debbie, those moments are never ever wasted, and
That's right.
There's no question that her Uncle Chuck had those seeds planted, and God can water those. You remember the parable in the Bible about the workers who come into the field, at the 11th hour, and they get the same wage.
That's right.
So it doesn't matter when it happens, just that it happens, and we'll pray that it did for Chuck.
Yes, we're going to be praying for Chuck and your entire family, Sherry. So please know that we got to have trust in God, and you know what? We just keep moving forward. Thank you, Sherry, so very much. Gary and Margaret and Frank and Dave and the others and everybody emailing in. Sorry we couldn't get to you. We'll read all your emails. You can continue the conversation if you'd like to email us. Just email take2, the number 2 at EWTN.com. Tomorrow, Jerry, we're going to be talking about breakthroughs and how they really help us advance in our spiritual growth.
That's right. If you have had something you've struggled with, you've asked God to help you with, and you've been able to break through, share that tomorrow and inspire others. And